want chocolate cake now. Go buy it for me."
Lying in bed, feeling terrible, my crazy mother-in-law, Grace, demanded that I get her a cake right away. I finally lost it with this woman, who was making a racket above my head. "Would you just shut up? Listen, I've got a month left to live. Go get your own damn cake, you idiot." My name is Olivia, and I'm 28 years old. I met my husband David through a friend, and we got married after dating for 3 years. We don't have any kids yet, but we're enjoying our time together. David's family owns a small factory with about 30 employees. They're doing pretty well in their area. The company was founded by my late father-in-law, and I heard from David that it grew with the combined efforts of the employees. Now David's sister Sophia is running the company as the CEO. By the way, she's not married. Sophia has a knack for business, and the company's performance has improved recently.
"Must be Sophia's great communication skills, just like Mom,"
David said. Sophia was indeed friendly and approachable, even to me when we first met. "I'm Sophia, your sister-in-law. I'm so happy to have such a cute sister." She grabbed my hand and said this with a wonderful smile. As someone who only has brothers, I was also happy to feel like I had gained a sister. So far, it sounds like I have nothing to complain about, but that's not the case. The problem is my mother-in-law. Our company has coffee breaks at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., and I really hate those times. And here's why. "Sorry, Olivia. I'm a bit tied up. Could you get Mom's coffee?" When I hear that, my mood instantly drops. The family home is next to the factory, and my mother-in-law chose to retire and stay home after my father-in-law passed away. However, she seemed to cherish this coffee break, saying, "I've been waiting for you. So, Olivia, I wanted to talk to Sophia." She gave me a blatantly disappointed look. Naturally, she wasn't in a good mood, and as she was about to leave with a wry smile, she said, "Hey, I have something to say to you, so sit here." And then she complains to me until the break is over. "So, you've been married for 3 years and still no kids. What can I do? Having kids isn't something you can control." And if I stay quiet, she gets even more irritated. "Why such a gloomy face? I wonder why David chose someone like you. Plus, given your parents, who knows how long you'll live?" The sooner the better. She said that with a sigh. Hearing her say that, especially about my parents, really gets me down. And there's a reason for that. When David and I decided to get married and went to meet his family, this happened. "What? You don't have parents?" My mother-in-law looked shocked when I told her. Of course, it's not like I never had parents. My mom passed away from cancer when I was 10, and my dad died of a heart attack 10 years later when I was 20. My memories of my mom are vague, but my dad raised my brother and me all by himself. I deeply regret that he passed away before I could repay his kindness. When people hear about my situation, they usually look at me with pity and say, "You must have had a hard time." But my mother-in-law was different. "So, you might not live long either, huh?" She actually said that. While I was stunned by her response,
"What a rude thing to say. How insensitive,"
my husband David said. Despite that, my mother-in-law kept grumbling, insisting it was an important issue. Should I reconsider this marriage? Just as I was thinking that, Sophia, who had been quiet until then, slammed her hand on the table and said, "What are you talking about?" Said so quietly, everyone in the room froze. Then my mother-in-law said, "Right, Sophia, you agree with me, don't you?" That's what she said. Sophia coldly responded, "What? I told Mom, David chose Olivia himself, and she's wonderful. Why can't you support that?" That's what she told my mother-in-law, with cold eyes. This seemed to shock my mother-in-law, who adores her daughter. From then on, she stopped making snide comments, except when we were alone. Even during the twice daily coffee breaks, she looked disappointed when I brought her coffee instead of Sophia. David and I rented a room near his family home, so the only time I had to endure her complaints was during those 10-minute coffee breaks. I'm so glad we don't live together. But my peace was suddenly shattered. That year, a record-breaking hurricane brought a lot of misfortune my way.
Olivia, hurry! Something terrible has happened.
I'd never heard David sound so panicked. I rushed to the living room to find it in complete disarray. What is this? Our ceiling was leaking terribly due to the hurricane. It wasn't just our room. The owner contacted us to say it was the same in other rooms. It seemed impossible to repair while living there, so we had to find temporary housing. Sophia cheerfully suggested, "Why are you worrying? Just live with us. Your commute will be 30 seconds. Sophia said that with an innocent look on her face. So, we ended up staying with David's family for a while. Welcome home, David. The leak must have been tough, but Mom is happy we can live together again." My mother-in-law greeted us cheerfully, but David mostly ignored her, like a teenager in a rebellious phase. And finally she said, "Oh, Olivia, you're here too. I didn't notice because you're so quiet. Smile more." Frustrated, my husband made a face, and all I could do was force a smile, knowing we'd be staying there for a while. After moving in together, I witnessed something quite peculiar. The first time I saw it was during dinner on our first night living together. Wanting to show my gratitude, I cooked dinner: bread, soup, and steak. It wasn't a glamorous menu, but my mother-in-law and sister-in-law said it was delicious and ate it all. I remember feeling genuinely relieved. After a while, my mother-in-law suddenly got up and brought a container from the fridge. Humming a tune, she opened it and piled a ton of its contents onto her steak.
Ugh, Mom, you're still eating that stuff?
My husband sitting next to me looked disgusted. Sophia, my sister-in-law, rolled her eyes and said, "She won't stop, no matter how many times I tell her. I've given up." She then burst into laughter. At first, I couldn't tell what was on top of the steak. Upon closer inspection, I realized it was jam. While sweet sauces on meat aren't unheard of, adding jam to a seasoned steak was just bizarre. When you eat something salty, you crave something sweet, right? That's why, she said, looking quite pleased with herself. Honestly, it gave me heartburn just watching her. For the record, I'm not a fan of sweet sauces on meat. "Come on, Olivia, why don't you try it? It's delicious," mother-in-law said, turning to me for the first time. I didn't want to eat it either, but I forced a smile. Apparently, that wasn't the reaction she was hoping for. "I'm recommending it for a reason. You might live longer if you follow my example." With that parting shot, she retreated to her room. I was left speechless as she stormed off. My husband and sister-in-law apologized, saying, "Sorry." "Sorry. Mom's at it again with her nonsense." Apparently, mother-in-law has a serious sweet tooth and doesn't feel her day is complete without eating a cake. Amazingly, her annual health checkups always come back normal. Come to think of it, she's always eating cake during our 3 p.m. coffee breaks. I remember that. I like cake too, but not every day. It would get monotonous. And what about blood sugar levels? I've always been cautious about my health, especially since both my parents had short lifespans. So mother-in-law's jam steak was quite a shock. "Wait, does Sophia buy the cake every day?" Caught off guard, Sophia admitted. "Yeah, she makes me go buy it. She says it's embarrassing for her to do it herself. Thanks to that, I've become good friends with all the local cake shops." Sophia said, laughing. Watching this, my husband David said,
"Sophia, this isn't a laughing matter. Mom's getting older. She needs to start caring about her health.
I've always left it to Sophia to deal with Mom, and I feel bad about it. With that, my husband continued to look exasperated. Well, I think you guys will have to help out more from now on, Sophia said with a cheerful face, and I braced myself for more interactions with mother-in-law. Living with my in-laws made my commute much shorter, so I took the initiative to do household chores before and after work. I tried to engage my mother-in-law in conversation, but she often gave me the cold shoulder or outright ignored me. Despite that, she never missed an opportunity to complain about the kids during our coffee breaks.
Since moving here, I've had more bad days. Must be the stress.
My spirits were low. My husband noticed and offered multiple times to go to the doctor with me.
Let's move out and stay at a hotel temporarily,
he suggested, but I declined because it felt like a waste of money and the nearest hotel was still a bit far. Then, the worst thing happened.
A business trip for a whole week?
I was speechless at the news from my husband. The reason for my despair? Sophia, my sister-in-law, would be going too, meaning I'd be alone with mother-in-law. Yes, I'm saying that. My husband offered to take me with him, but I thought it's just a week. I hope I can handle it, especially since I still wasn't feeling well. On the day they left, Sophia sent me a mother-in-law survival guide to my phone. If anything happens, just feed her cake and you'll be fine. I couldn't help but laugh. The list included local cake shops and mother-in-law's favorite cakes from each. For someone like me, who was bracing for a tough week, this info was a godsend. In a week, our home renovations would be done, and we could move back. I thought I could manage, but that optimism crumbled on the first night. When I returned from work, mother-in-law was blocking the entrance. You know why I'm angry, don't you?
No, I don't. I'm not psychic.
Losing patience, mother-in-law snapped. You missed both the 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. coffee breaks today. Her words caught me off guard. Indeed, with my husband and Sophia away and end-of-month tasks piling up, I'd completely forgotten about mother-in-law's coffee breaks, and I myself never had a coffee break. I thought she'd understand since she used to work, but she yelled, The moment we're alone, you start this harassment? You wicked woman! She said that with an angry look on her face. I felt a huge disconnect with her.
Why am I getting yelled at like this? Do I deserve to be called wicked?
Suppressing my anger, I thought, it's just a few more days, and said, I did buy cake during my lunch break. It's in the office fridge. Sorry I didn't bring it. Here you go. Her face instantly changed from angry to smiling. Let's forget about today. Don't forget tomorrow, okay? She said and cheerfully went back to her room.
I'll just call her the cake demon from now on.
From then on, I never forgot the coffee breaks, knowing how troublesome it would be to upset mother-in-law. On the day my husband and Sophia were due back, I felt so stressed that I was hit with nausea, headaches, and a loss of appetite. I took the day off and went to the hospital.
It's pretty bad. Can your family come right away?
I couldn't stop crying at the doctor's words. I was told I have cancer, and at most 6 months, maybe even just 1 month to live. I returned home, my face tear-streaked and my body shaky, and lay down on the bed. The door burst open. What are you doing skipping work? Sophia and David are working hard and you're slacking off? Her screeching worsened my headache. I didn't have the energy to respond, so I just said, I'm not feeling well, and closed my eyes. Mother-in-law didn't seem to like it either. She didn't want to leave the room and still complained to me. She continued to complain, saying things like, That's why you can't have kids. And, Who knows if you'll live long? I just kept silent, pretending to sleep. I pretended to be asleep. Then, out of nowhere, she asked about today's coffee break. Is she really this stupid? I thought, opening my eyes to see her standing over me. Grace, I'm sorry. I'm not feeling well enough to go shopping today. Could you please? She cut me off. I don't care. I want chocolate cake now. Go buy it. You're probably faking it. She screamed at me louder than ever. My frustration exploded at the woman in front of me who was selfish like a child. Shut up. Listen to me. I have 1 month to live. Go buy your own damn cake, you idiot. What? My words seemed to stun my mother-in-law, who looked at me with wide eyes. Then, from behind mother-in-law,
Mom, what are you doing? And Olivia, what do you mean by 1 more month?
My husband with a pale face and my sister-in-law, who looked equally concerned, were standing there. Weren't you coming back tomorrow? Ignoring the visibly shaken mother-in-law, my husband came to my side. I felt so relieved by his actions that I burst into tears. I can't take it anymore. The doctor says it might be cancer, and I'm not feeling well, but you keep nagging me to go buy cake. Enough is enough. Stop bothering me about the kids, too. Just leave me alone, you idiot. I let out all my resentment towards mother-in-law while crying. My husband and sister-in-law looked at mother-in-law with cold eyes. Sending a sick person to buy cake? Are you stupid? Sophia, who's usually all smiles, had a face I'd never seen before. A terrifying one.
You've been making snide remarks about the kids. Look, I didn't say anything because it's a private matter. But the reason we can't have kids is me.
My husband raised his voice as he said this. In reality, about a year after we got married, we consulted a doctor because we were having trouble conceiving. The test showed that I was fine, but my husband's numbers were low. He felt really down about it and kept apologizing to me with a sad face. I didn't want to make him feel that way, so I avoided talking about kids as much as possible. I did want children, but I thought life with just my husband was enough. I never considered leaving him because we couldn't have kids. I didn't tell mother-in-law because I knew she'd start nagging my husband next. I didn't want that. Mother-in-law listened to my husband's words with a face like her soul had been sucked out. Just then, my cell phone rang. The caller ID showed. It was the hospital. Hello? Yes? Right now? My husband just got home. Okay, understood. The doctor who had called earlier sounded very urgent, asking us to come right away. Am I really that sick? As I started to cry from the anxiety.
It's okay, Olivia. Can you stand? I'm with you.
My husband, who also looked like he was about to cry, and I rushed to the hospital. As we were leaving, I caught a glimpse of mother-in-law get a stern lecture from Sophia. When we arrived at the hospital, we were immediately ushered into a room where the doctor and even the hospital director were waiting to offer us a deep apology. A misdiagnosis? According to the doctor, they had mixed up my medical records with another patient who had the same name and birth date as me. I couldn't believe such a thing could happen, but the doctor did look extremely worn out. This incident was later covered in a local news segment, and the hospital vowed to review its working conditions.
I'm not a specialist, but Olivia's symptoms might be.
We were then referred to another hospital. When we returned to my in-law's house, mother-in-law seemed to have been scolded by Sophia and was shrinking in her seat. Sophia later told me she was worried that her newlywed son might lose his wife and be heartbroken. It might be love turned inside out, but it was a real hassle. Seeing our tear-streaked faces, even mother-in-law broke down. Did I really do something that bad? She started crying. So what about Olivia? Sophia asked with a concerned look. I'm pregnant, I said, tears of joy filling my eyes. My husband was also shedding tears of happiness beside me. We immediately went to the maternity hospital as advised.
It's still early, but yes, you're pregnant. We can confirm the heartbeat.
Hearing that, we both burst into tears, even though we were in a hospital. Sophia also cried, saying, I'm so glad, so very glad. As for what happened next, Sophia got engaged to her long-term boyfriend. and moved to another state with him after quitting her job. We had heard about this before, so it wasn't a surprise. My husband, who was taking over as the new CEO, seemed to have his hands full with client visits. The business trip, by the way, was for that reason. He told me later that he was able to come home a day early because it ended sooner than expected. Mother-in-law seemed to know nothing about it. "What? Getting married? Quitting her job and moving to another state?" And was shocked. Sophia told her, "Yeah, I told you, remember?" "Well, it doesn't matter. It's settled." Mother-in-law was in a daze, and we all laughed. We returned home to find our leaky roof repaired and our room looking brand new. We cheered in delight. Things remained awkward with mother-in-law. My husband was angrier than I was and said he never wanted to see her again. But mother-in-law started showing up occasionally during our coffee breaks, holding not cake, but small snacks like biscuits. She had stopped the daily cakes and jam steaks, apparently trying to be more health conscious now that she knew a grandchild was on the way. Employees who had worked there since my father-in-law was CEO seemed happy to see mother-in-law, so I realized she wasn't inherently a bad person. Our conversations gradually increased, and she stopped complaining. When our daughter Emma was born, mother-in-law transformed. She started doing things like buying diapers and leaving side dishes for dinner, saying, "Feel free to eat. You're always working so hard." Even when she knew I was home, she'd send a message and leave without ringing the doorbell. The side dishes were in a cooler, and I appreciated her thoughtfulness. I felt I could get along with this version of mother-in-law. What really convinced me was when Emma was born. Mother-in-law took my hand and said, "Thank you, Olivia. Really, thank you." Seeing her tears, I knew she was sincere. Sophia also seems to be doing well and recently announced her pregnancy. It seems like it won't be long before we all gather at the in-laws' house for a friendly meal